Okay, welcome everybody today. This is a big moment for Leighton and myself. I'm Steve Bradfield. I am Leighton's father, and we will be starting this podcast journey together, which will be good, and I'm going to ask Leighton a little bit more about that. Leighton, do you want to just talk to us a little bit about, well, firstly, who are you? Who's Leighton?
Yeah.
Just for our listeners who might not be aware of who you are.
Yeah, so my name's Leighton Bradfield, and if you haven't figured out already, that's my dad, Steve Bradfield, but I'll just reference him as Dad for the rest of this podcast. Just real quickly, my name's Leighton and was one of the founding people that started 20 Talk, which is a mental health charity based out of Fremantle. Pretty much what we do is create relatable education for young adults and try to make it cool, try new things, be innovative in the mental health space, because what we saw out there wasn't working. The education was quite clunky, out of touch, and people wanted something different. Quit my job in construction, along with Lockie, who's also involved with 20 Talk, and we decided to try something different to start a charity. So it started a massive journey.
How long have you been going?
Yeah, we've been doing this for 5 years now.
Okay.
Started off actually in Dad's living room downstairs, with a few bunch of guys, maybe 8 guys, coming together to understand what's the issue. And we quickly figured out that, what was out there wasn't relatable. And there's no point of having all this great clinical education if young people couldn't connect to it.
Okay, so you've got 20 Talk, you're doing a lot of mental health training, you've launched a new product as well, mental health maintenance. You're in schools, you're doing all sorts of stuff. So why this podcast and what's that about? You're the brainchild of this.
Well, we started we wanted to start a podcast. It's called In My World. So if you haven't seen it already, it's called In My World. And what we really wanted to do was create a podcast, a long format where people could really understand more about 20 Talk and more about what's going on for people in their world. I've always been curious about understanding how people tick, and that's largely come from my dad, who's just sitting here. And we have a very strong relationship in that we like to interview people, we like to get to know people, and we're really passionate about mental health. So I thought, why not create a podcast when we have the resources to really discover what's going on for people, because a lot of mental health discussions and chat, it's very on the surface, and people are very afraid to kind of dig into what's really going on and talk about the darkness and talk about the shit stuff that's going on. So we want to kind of just really figure out what's going on in people's worlds.
So why did you ask me to do it then?
Well, like I said, all of the skills that I've kind of picked up over the years in terms of questioning and mental health have largely come from you.
Yeah.
Steve's also on the board at 20 Talk and has been there for the whole journey. With the questioning skills and the discoveries that you've learned over your big journey in mental health, working in the army. I mean, we'll go into his story later, but it's pretty full on. Having you here would be an honour. Yeah,
look, it's very exciting for me. I know for me, I learned how to talk to people from my dad. Down at the jetties, talking to people about fishing, talking about their story, and I learnt all that from him. So it's good passing that down. So I'm really looking forward to doing this with you and learning from you, because we are very much cut out of the same cloth, but we think differently. And I think that will really help us to unpeel the story of people's lives from different generations, because we do plan to have young and old here and talking about people's journeys and life stories. So I think it'll be really good. I know you have your signature question and I have mine based on my story. So I think that should be really good.
Yeah.
One of the things that we have discussed about in this format, what we're going to be doing is obviously talking to people about who they are, like I've just asked with you. But one of the things that we are really hoping to do is to find out in the last 12 months, because we both understand the power of self-reflection, because the reality is we can't be with a counsellor 24/7. We actually have to learn how to interpret our journey, and the self-reflecting skill is something that's never taught. And I guess that's something that we're going to be really pushing with people.
So with that in mind, what's the format for the In My World podcast? How does it work?
Okay, so we're going to ask people 3 questions. We're going to ask them what have been their mental health discoveries or gold nuggets in their journey over the last 12 months.
Okay.
Now, we're not going to just spring it on them. Our guests are aware of this when they're asked, but they have a little bit of time to think about it.
So what is the mental health discovery?
What is a mental health discovery? It is something that you are learning. We're not in this show all about nice, tied up, neat bows, because I don't think that's often the way life is. Life is not like neat boxes. It's messy. It's beautiful. It is sometimes cruel. So it's about what discoveries, what rooms have you walked into in your life that you've never been in before, and you go, wow, what's going on in here? So it could be something that's fantastic. It could be something it could be a shadow side of you that you didn't realize that you've got from feedback. It could be a longing that has been triggered by a movie or something that you've seen that's just gone bang, and you go, what's that about? So I am going to start this off with you, because the listeners will want to know who this Leighton guy is.
Yep. All right.
So I want to ask you, and I will poke around a bit here.
Okay.
Some of these questions that you may
Please be nice to me.
So, first of all, what just run us through these 3 discoveries that you may have going currently at the moment.
Okay, so I'm going to just list out my 3, and we'll start with the first one.
Shoot.
So the first one, I'm call this burnout mode activated. I've got a bit of a relationship with burnout. The second one is, I guess, a journey discovering my anxiety and how I kind of navigate that, not really solve it, but navigate it over the last year. And the last one would be power of communication in relationships and in the workplace.
Okay.
So burnout.
There are 3 big ones. Okay, so what does burnout mean for you, Leighton?
I guess burnout for me means working too hard, trying to achieve too much, and the physical manifestations of that is the biggest one for me is like poor memory, inability to concentrate, and lack of empathy. And it's funny because you're someone who's running a mental health charity, and you say you got a lack of empathy because you've been burning the candle at 2 ends. But the reality is, like, when you're starting up any business or working in mental health, you can't escape mental health issues. So my burnout journey started probably about 3 years ago when, previously I was working in construction, in project management style of work, and 20 Talk had been going for about 2 years at that point in a volunteer capacity. And I was pretty much ready just to go full tilt with 20 Talk and make it my full-time job because it was going.
But with no money.
Well. It was not making any money really. We'd made 20 grand. We had nearly 15 to 20 volunteers, and I knew there was something there.
Yep.
I knew it was going to be my career and we were going to do something. So I decided just to go, let's get a $100 a week office, and I'm just going to get paid $350 a week, and we're going to make it work. And that was when we were back at the Naval store. And for me, it was so stressful because we were running about 15 different or 12 different programs, ranging from events, finance team, diversity team, training,
Board.
you name it, we were doing it. And we thought that having all of these volunteers and having, more helpers was making it easier for us. But really, managing an even bigger team was an additional stress. And working on the journey to try and make 20 Talk a sustainable model so we could actually, pay ourselves and ooh, there goes my stomach, pay ourselves and turn this into a bigger thing was really stressful. And it led me down a road of, it influenced my relationships at the time. I was leaving my keys in the ignition. I was forgetting things. I was
leaving your lights on in the car.
Leaving
and
the
getting
lights.
me to push start you.
Yeah, that happened millions of times. I had financial stress because I didn't know how I was going to, pay for my rent, and all of these things stacked up to a point where it was influencing my relationships. And
So would it be fair to say that at the time, if I'd asked you, say, 12, 15 months ago, if you were suffering burnout, would you have said, yes, I was, or would you have said that you're just smashing it at the moment?
Well, the thing is, I've had two spouts of it. I've had one spout, which is that original one, which is about 3 years ago. I had 1 year of all clear, which was last year.
Yeah.
And then this year, again, it's come back. And the thing that really got me through that second year was I decided, I have to go see a psychologist.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate enough, like we'll talk about this later, but Dad was in the army. And what that means is that we, or siblings or sons, sons or daughters or family members get free counselling. And he encouraged me to go see a psychologist because the board was concerned about my well-being, and Lachlan was concerned as well. And just went through 10 to 15 sessions with a psychologist who really went over all of the lifestyle factors that weren't right in my life. Sleep, diet, exercise were all being pushed to the side just to try and make 20 Talk work.
So would it be fair to say that at the moment you probably just been feeling the weight of it's been 5 years of running crazy and your body's just saying, hey, we need a bit of a rest?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And you think that's fair?
Yeah, I think this in some form, stress is a natural response and it can be quite beneficial.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to stress yourself out. But the reality is we're running a mental health charity and we need to own our own mental health story and making sure we're not just doing every single thing that pops up. So because it's helping people and being a martyr ourselves and not leading by example.
So what would you say your discovery is?
Yeah. So my real discovery is that I need to cut programs down. I need to slim things down and work a lot smarter than harder.
Yeah.
And putting emphasis on my personal well-being will actually improve the business more than if I just try and do everything, because burnout and is not a sustainable model.
No.
And in the moment, you think you've got all this energy and you think you can do it, but it only lasts so long until you crash and burn. So
there's a famous psychologist by the name of Carl Jung who said, where you stumble and fall, there you will find pure gold. And for me, that has been amazing because I've been in your boat many times. And as an entrepreneur, as a creative, sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
But you got to learn each time.
And when I look back at my first episode of Burnout, like I almost wouldn't take that back. Which sounds really bad because it got us to a point, where both Lockie and myself worked so hard that we turned 20 Talk into something we could do full time, and we finally got the money to be able to do that. It's the second time I'm a little bit disappointed in myself with, because I learned all these skills and I just ignored them. And I'm only in the process now of resetting and making sure this doesn't happen a fourth time, because it's really not good for my health.
Yeah, that's good. Well,
so that's my first
Thank you
discovery.
for sharing that. That's very vulnerable,
Yeah.
which is where we want to go with this anyway, as long as it's not with me.
Well, my second one's even more vulnerable.
Okay, shoot.
So the next one's anxiety. And I think a lot of people see me and they think, oh, you know, Leighton's so confident. You know, he's got a direction. He's doing everything. He's just, he's got it all together. The reality is it's not true at all. And I guess my journey with anxiety started pretty much, I guess, a couple of years ago, when both Lockie and myself started doing mental health first aid training, and we decided we were going to be training up people in the tools and skills with anxiety, depression, suicidal conversations, and complete this 2-day course for young people. And in our first training course, we both held it in Fremantle, both Lockie and myself, to a whole bunch of friends. And very quickly on, I realized I was not very capable.
Yeah.
I wasn't capable. I didn't know all of the details with anxiety. I didn't know all the details with suicidal conversations. And there was a very obvious, I was exposed, and I felt like an imposter. And I felt like, you're running this charity and you don't know this stuff, and you're meant to be the expert. And to make it much worse, Lockie just absolutely killed it. And Lockie is just an absolute gun at training, and he's just a natural. You know, he's got that depth of knowledge from his experience with things in his life. And it just, my whole idea of myself was just put on the table, and I was exposed in front of all my friends. And then it got to a point where I had to teach the anxiety module. So anxiety module was about to come up, and I just freaked out.
Yeah.
I freaked out, and I just didn't know what to do. I had to get Lockie to stand in for me. And after that, my confidence just went to the shitter. Like,
Would you say it was a bit of a pride thing for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Because in the past, I'd been pretty good at public speaking, and I had a high regard of myself, but that was just totally shattered. And for the next year and a half, I was very nervous about doing public speaking, and that's a big part of my job. And I'd get this real anxiety where I would be avoidant and not want to do any public speaking, and I'd push every kind of opportunity of public speaking away, to a point where earlier on this year, I was asked by Curtin University to do a presentation on anxiety. And I knew it was coming up for 2 months, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do this.
Good. That's so good.
I'm going to confront this fear of anxiety by doing a presentation on anxiety. And I was shitting myself, and I just practiced and practiced and practiced. Yeah. And it wasn't about the money we're going to make from the presentation. It was just about me confronting it.
So how did it go in the end?
It went so well. I had Hannah, my partner, come along, and she spoke a bit about her journey with anxiety, which was really nice as well. But yeah, we had a full class of safety people from the Curtin safety team. The presentation went well. Everyone loved it. And it was just a really nice, I guess,
that's a good
moment for me, just to kind of overcome it and know that I can do it. And since then, I've tried my best to put myself in that challenging position.
So that was last year?
This is year.
Oh, this year.
Yeah,
so
anxiety.
For 4 years, you'd pretty much gotten away scot-free running a mental health charity without mental health issues.
Oh, well, yeah.
So you pretty much, you know, that's a pretty steep professional learning curve.
Yeah, 100%.
That's almost like a bit of that Carl Jung, where you stumble and fall, there you'll find pure gold, isn't it?
Yeah.
So for people who maybe, I mean, that's in your face when you're running, you're CEO of a mental health charity and you have your first panic attack, is pretty hectic. So what would you say to someone who, I mean, there's going to be, you know, the reality is probably 40% of young people listening to this, according to the stats, will have a diagnosable mental health condition and would be avoiding things in life. What would you say to them from this discovery?
I mean, I can only speak from my personal experience. I don't know everything, but in my personal experience, like exposure therapy was the best thing for me, and making sure that I didn't let it control me. I had a goal in mind where I was going to confront this fear, and the manifestation of like putting it away and avoiding it only made this thing grow and grow and grow to a point where it was overwhelming. But just having an opportunity in the future where you are going to confront it was the best thing for me personally. And
you also had, from what you just said, that you had the support of a trained mental health professional, which was really beneficial.
Yeah. And so in that speech as well, I had my partner there to support me, which is really nice.
What about your third discovery for the year?
Third discovery is a less vulnerable one. It's just a more positive one, but is the importance of communication.
What's that mean? That's a broad one.
Yeah, I know it's broad. Okay, so I just had a new partner started this year, Hannah, and since being with her, she's just an incredible communicator. You know, everything that she feels is put on the table, and it allows us so much more to be able to get through all of our issues and to enhance our relationship to the next level. In the past, I probably wasn't as good as putting things on the fore and getting them out there. But like I said before, resentment manifests in the absence of light. And when you don't talk about it, things just get worse. So, yeah, it's just a small one, but it's been really impactful for me.
Okay. So what's your nugget about it? What's your nugget about communication?
Okay. So the nugget is, hard conversation makes an easy conversation. That was once told to me by Julian Pace at Happiness Co. And having that hard conversation early really makes a big difference and saves you so much pain. It saved me so much pain over the last year.
Yeah. And how did you find, obviously Hannah probably put you on the spot about maybe some of your behaviours or thoughts or ideas or even beliefs. How did that feel?
It felt great.
Liar.
No, it's confronting, but by having, I guess, friction to some degree.
Yeah.
It's important when you first start a relationship because you're discovering each other and you're learning about each other and you're communicating. You're not just letting things kind of grow. And
does that make you feel safe?
Yeah, it does.
Why?
Because I feel understood when people communicate with you at a high degree.
Yeah.
Because they listen and there's a higher flow of information. You feel safe.
Sure. Yeah. That's good. There are 3 big discoveries. So I'm going to drop a bomb on you.
Perfect. Drop it on me. I've got 5 minutes left.
Yeah, that's right. So the last question, based on my journey in the past, and I'll discuss this over the episodes as we go past, is I've done a lot of funerals in my life as a military chaplain, emergency services chaplain, all sorts of different crazy stuff. And it's interesting when you have to pull the story of someone's life together at a funeral and share it with their friends. And my thing is that I want someone to walk away from a funeral with a lesson or something that they can take from that person's life that will benefit theirs. So it's like a perpetual existence. So I want to ask you the question, like, if for some reason you were to die in the next 12 months, I know you love your spearfishing.
Well, so do you, mate.
I know, but if this, and this is not a question that's often comfortable, but I just want to ask you, what would you want someone to say about you if they were doing your funeral?
Bloody hell, mate.
Serious. What sort of man would you like to be known for?
Well, I haven't actually thought about this question at all, so I'm just going to say what comes to my head.
Sure.
I would like people to say that Leighton wasn't afraid to tackle big challenges in the world. I think justice is a really important value that I value.
Yeah.
And in terms of the mental health space, I see that there's been a massive injustice with the amount of education young people don't receive about mental health and how to tackle life's challenges. And that's a problem that I want to solve. When I saw that significant problem, I wanted to take responsibility for that. And I want to be known for a person that doesn't just call things out, but that takes responsibility and that cares about the world. I think that's what I would like to be known for on a more on a larger level, but on more of a more personal level. I would love to be known for someone who genuinely cares about my family and my friends around me and looks out for them in the best way they can.
Well, to me, based on some of your discoveries and what you're talking about, your passion, your commitment to wanting to start this whole program with Lockie 5 years ago and the sacrifice, it'd be fair to say that you're pretty much well and truly on that journey. Yeah. So that's a really good thing.
Yeah, and the journey has just begun.
It just begun, yeah. So one little thing, and I know we've only got 1 or 2 minutes to go, and that is one thing we're going to do is for every person that does this podcast with us, we're going to get them to leave a question for the next guest that they have to start with as an answer. So I'm just going to leave that with you to write us a question. But thanks for coming today. Thanks for sharing your story and being vulnerable, because I'm sure a lot of people would enjoy what they've just heard.
And thanks for listening to everyone and for our first podcast.
Yeah.
Most podcasts don't make it past the 10th episode, so we're promising you will at least get to 20, and then hopefully 100, and then hopefully 200.
That's good. Cheers. Thank you.
All right, we'll see you in the next episode with your question.
Very good.
Bye.